Hello, my name is Stephanie Wong, and this is my final project for my Influence of Gardens in Chinese art. So I decided to do a hand scroll for my project, and really quickly just talking about some of the materials you can see right now. This little tag my mom gave me as a keychain a long time ago. Everything I used I already had in my apartment. So I used red embroidery thread, this paper I already had, I used tape, and then as the dowels I didn't have like anything, and so I decided to reuse some old shampoo bottles. So I'm gonna unravel the hand scroll. So the title of my scroll is Pine and Man in the 626, and I also wrote my Chinese name down here, and I tried to emulate like a red Chinese seal that like emperors and scholars would use to mark that they've either seen something or have studied something. And so the act of looking at a hand scroll is very similar to walking through a garden, in the same way how you can't see a garden all at once, and you can't see the entire hand scroll all at once. You can only see one scene at a time. And so similar to how a garden will bring you different scenes as you look through different windows, or you have different vantage points in the garden, a hand scroll will show you certain scenes as well. Additionally, the progression of using a hand scroll is very similar to walking through a garden. It's like a physical thing you have to do and a physical thing that you see. And specifically, Chinese landscape paintings and gardens are very intertwined and have defined and developed one another. So the mountain range I am trying to evoke is the San Gabriel Mountains. I've grown up in Los Angeles my whole life, and grew up looking at these mountains all the time. And I wanted to bring in something special to this hand scroll project, and bring my own interpretation to things. And so this is a physical site, but it's also imaginary because I've added certain elements, but I've tried to keep the scale very similar and like consistent throughout the whole project, and use a lot of I've used lots of pictures that I've taken or pictures that I found online of San Gabriel mountain ranges and of other elements in the hand scroll. And so next, here is a pine tree that I painted, and I modeled this after a picture that I saw online. And it was very difficult, but I had a really good time doing it, and I think it turned out pretty cool. And so next we see the San Gabriel Reservoir and the San Gabriel Dam. And I've seen this like many times. When I'm at home, sometimes I'll drive into the mountains and then just sit and look at this reservoir. And you can see the dam in the middle, the man-made dam there. And I also tried to add in like water movement like I've seen in some other hand scrolls. Not to mention, I really wanted to keep it monochromatic. And then we have some space, which allows for other people or me in the future to add in more things or add in my own thoughts. And then I chose some poems as colophons to describe the scenes. So this says, "Only in the cold winter does one know that the pine and the cypress are the last to shed their leaves." This is a quote from Confucius from the Analects. And this means that a harsh environment can test whether a person has a strong mind, perseverance, and noble character. I chose this specifically because of the pine tree that I depicted earlier in the hand scroll, and also because I have had a very difficult experience just recently. I suffered from a concussion, and I have had to recover and go through a really slow recovery process. And I feel a little bit like the pine, and how I was in a very harsh environment, and it tested whether I was strong and whether I could persevere. I had many sleepless nights and many nights of frustration because I couldn't do my homework. I couldn't do the things I was used to doing, like walking or cooking or talking or looking at my phone even and answering emails. So I had to slow down and endure the harsh condition, the harsh environment, and let my body heal. And it really built a stronger mind in myself. And I think I have that time to reflect was really special. And so I feel very similar to the pine tree in my recent experiences. And then next I included another poem. I wanted to talk specifically about the dam. So this poem says, "Walls of stone will stand upstream to the west to hold back Wushan's clouds and rain, till a smooth lake rises in the narrow gorges. The mountain goddess, if she is still there, will marvel at the world so changed." This is a poem by Mao Zedong called Swimming that was written in 1956 AD. And so this is similar to the San Gabriel Dam in Los Angeles, California. I feel like the landscape of Los Angeles is very significant, especially San Gabriel Valley. There's a lot of Chinese people who live here, and I think that like our experiences are very different. And I think that like our Chinese experiences, or me being a Chinese person, I wanted to bring in elements of California Asian American into like garden principles. And so that is the end of the hand scroll. But I like wanted to talk about also a few other things. And I'll open up the hand scroll to this scene so you can look at it. So I feel like specifically, I feel like specifically this dam is kind of like how when a garden is construction, it's the union of man and nature, and there's a man-made thing in nature, and man kind of comes in and decides to work with the water, but also is affecting and building and changing things. So that was one garden principle I utilized. Another one too was raising mountains, like in Ji Cheng's garden treatise. I used my brush and my imagination to raise and replicate the San Gabriel Mountains. And I feel like this is also kind of like a yin and yang concept where mountains are very strong, very real. These are real things. But I used my imagination and my paintbrush to create and raise them. And then I also, wanted to talk about my materials. So I feel like I kind of utilized the concept of bricolage, where I used what I had, and that really sparked my creativity. I didn't have all the papers I wanted or all the materials I could have used, but I'm really, really happy with how it turned out. I used pencil to draw the movement of the water, and I used like watercolor, and this is to signify the like concrete dam. And I also wanted to follow like Wong, who was a very iconic painter who developed the monochromatic look, and I really like that simple, clean look. I feel like it's a lot more powerful and kind of like less rowdy than using colors. I guess that's not the right word, but I wanted it to be like very sleek and reflective, like how it would be if you were viewing a garden or viewing a hand scroll in your own time. And I wanted to pull a specific quote that I took from Keswick's Painter's Eye. As the monochrome developed, it seems likely that it also affected the way people looked at gardens. So in the way how you can only see like black and white, like when you go to gardens and you see that it's very simple and monochromatic, it makes it easier to look at the shadows and to view shadows on rockery, on artificial mountains. And so that is, that's not all I wanted to talk about. I also wanted to talk about the naming that I chose. I'll go to the faux seal that I made. And I'm very proud of this pine. But yeah, I chose the title Pine and Man in the 626. Naming gardens is a very specific thing, and usually lots of friends and scholars would all get together to decide on the name of a garden. And I wanted to tie in like my very California experience into this, and so even just how I wrote the title is a little bit more like modern. And I use like pine because there's a pine tree, and that symbolizes the challenge that I just overcame recovering from my concussion. And then man, as in like the man-made dam. And so something natural and then something man-made, I think in the same sense of like my personal experience and then experiencing like the natural effects of my concussion, and then having to take care of myself and intervene. And then I added in the 626 because the 626 is the phone area code of San Gabriel area. And there's a lot of like SoCal pride if you were born and raised in the 626. And so I wanted to add in that little touch of modernism and utilize all these garden principles to make this hand scroll. And so that's the end of my, I guess, presentation video. I hope you enjoyed it. And thank you.